The lunchtime rush was in full swing at the Silver Spoon Bistro. Plates clattered, laughter filled the air, and the scent of roasted garlic butter drifted through the room. Amid the noise, a sharp gasp cut through the chatter. An elderly woman had stumbled near table 6, her purse scattering coins across the polished floor. Most turned their heads, some chuckled awkwardly, but one waitress, Emily Carter, didn't hesitate. She dropped her tray, ignoring the spilled soup splashing her apron, and rushed to the woman's side. "Ma'am, are you all right? Don't move too quickly," she said gently, helping her sit up. The diners nearby began whispering. One man at a corner table laughed outright. "Guess she just wants a bigger tip," he sneered. Laughter followed. Emily ignored them all. She took off her own sweater and draped it over the woman's shoulders. "Let's get you warm first," she said softly, her voice steady despite the murmurs behind her. By the time Emily helped the woman back into her chair, her manager, Mr. Ross, had approached, frowning. "Emily, you just left 3 tables waiting. You can't play nurse every time someone trips," he said curtly. Emily flushed but stood firm. She fell hard. "I couldn't just walk away." In the corner, the man who had laughed earlier, sharply dressed, clearly wealthy, smirked. "Such dedication," he said mockingly. "I'll make sure to leave a big tip for the hero waitress." His friends chuckled. Emily clenched her jaw but smiled at the older woman. "Would you like some water, ma'am?" "Yes, dear." "Thank you," the woman whispered, her eyes kind but tired. No one noticed the subtle way she observed every person in that restaurant, who mocked, who ignored, and who helped. After the woman finished her meal, she handed Emily a small, folded note. "Thank you, child," she said. "You have no idea what this meant." Emily smiled politely. "I'm just glad you're okay." The woman left slowly, her cane tapping softly against the tile. The mocking diners had already moved on, laughing over their desserts, never realizing that the quiet old lady had left in a black car with tinted windows waiting outside. The next morning, Emily arrived at work to find the entire staff buzzing. "Did you hear?" one whispered. "The owner's son is here, the billionaire himself." Emily froze mid-step. She'd heard rumors that Richard Hammond, the reclusive billionaire who owned the Silver Spoon chain, was a ruthless businessman who rarely appeared in public. Moments later, the same man who had laughed at her yesterday walked in, now standing stiffly beside a tall figure in a tailored suit. The older man's presence commanded silence. His voice, calm yet cold, filled the room. "Yesterday, my mother came here for lunch." Everyone froze. Mr. Ross blinked. Your mother, sir?" Richard nodded slowly. "Yes." She fell. "And while most of you stood by, one person chose compassion over convenience." He turned, his gaze landing directly on Emily. "You helped her." Emily swallowed hard. I just did what anyone should have." Richard shook his head slightly. "No. You did what few would." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, handing it to her. Inside was a check and a letter. The letter read, "Dear Emily, you reminded me that kindness still exists in a world too busy to care. My son and I have spoken, and we would like you to manage our new community restaurant program. It will be a place where no one is ever mocked for doing the right thing. With love, Margaret Hammond." Emily's eyes filled with tears. The same men who had laughed at her now stood silent, shame flickering across their faces. Richard smiled faintly. "My mother doesn't give her trust easily. You've earned it." Mr. Ross stammered. "Sir, I told her to." Richard cut him off. "You told her to ignore someone in need. Consider this your last day here." Gasps filled the room. Emily tried to speak, but Richard raised a hand. "Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You did what was right when no one was watching." The staff and diners watched in stunned silence as Emily, trembling, accepted the offer. When Emily returned to the Silver Spoon a week later, everything felt different. The same tables, the same walls, yet the energy had shifted. Customers greeted her with warmth instead of indifference. Even the waitstaff, once skeptical, now treated her with admiration. Richard Hammond had made good on his word. He personally oversaw the cafe project, and insisted that the Silver Spoon implement a compassion first policy, rewarding staff for acts of kindness rather than sales alone. Emily couldn't help but smile as she trained new recruits, reminding them of the day everything changed. "Never underestimate a simple act," she'd say. "It may be the moment someone's heart remembers forever." One quiet afternoon, the restaurant doors opened, and in walked the elderly woman once again, dressed elegantly but with that same gentle smile. Emily froze, then rushed to greet her. "Mrs. Hammond! I didn't think I'd see you again." The woman laughed softly. "My dear, this place now feels like home. I couldn't stay away." They sat together, sharing tea. Around them, customers chatted kindly, waiters smiled, and laughter filled the air. But this time, it was laughter born of joy, not mockery. Margaret Hammond leaned in and said quietly, "You didn't just help me up that day, Emily. You helped my son see what money can't buy, heart." Tears glimmered in Emily's eyes. "You both changed my life too." Months later, during a charity event at the cafe, Emily stood on stage beside Richard and Margaret Hammond. Cameras flashed as she gave a short speech. "I wasn't rich. I wasn't powerful," she said, voice trembling slightly. "But that day, I had a choice, to look away or to care. And that choice changed everything. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: kindness doesn't need an audience. It needs courage." The crowd erupted in applause. In the front row, the same men who once laughed at her now sat quietly, heads bowed in respect. Years passed, and Emily's table became a symbol of hope across the city. Elderly guests, struggling families, and lonely souls found not just food there, but comfort and dignity. A photograph hung by the entrance, Emily kneeling beside Margaret Hammond, both smiling warmly. Beneath it, a small brass plaque read, "One act of kindness can change a heart. One heart can change the world." And every morning, as sunlight poured through the cafe windows, Emily whispered a silent thank you for the moment she chose compassion over comfort. Because that moment had rewritten her entire story.